Hi! Today we're going to talk about how we can support our 4th grade students with multiplication. Students learned in 3rd grade about the distributive property and will continue using this property as a strategy to multiply increasingly larger numbers in 4th grade. The distributive property says that I can break any multiplication problem down into smaller parts to solve a simpler problem. And we're going to do a few of those problems today to see how that works. Our first example that we're going to do today is 6 times 4. Notice this is a 1-digit times a 1-digit problem. When we were in 3rd grade, this was our focus, 1 digit times 1 digit. And it's going to continue to be something that we support the students with because we want them to have a solid foundation in their 1-digit by 1-digit multiplication facts. This will help support them as they start multiplying those larger numbers. So how can we use the distributive property as a strategy for students to solve these simpler problems? So 6 times 4. Many students will want to skip count by 6s or by 4s, counting up in their head. And sometimes that leaves a little bit of room for error. So what we do is we show them how to break it into smaller parts using that distributive property. And there are so many ways the students can do this, and we want them to know that they can choose which way works best for them. So one way a student might choose to do this is they might choose to decompose 4 or break it up into 2 plus 2. So now I'm going to solve 2 simpler problems. I'm going to do 6 times 2 plus 6 times 2. And I know 6 times 2 is just 2 groups of 6, and 6 plus 6 is 12. So I can add 12 plus 12 in my head. That gives me a total of 24. So instead of skip counting by 6s or skip counting by 4s, I'm going to make 2 simpler problems. I'm going to do 6 times 2 2 times, so I'm going to end up with 12 plus 12, and I know that is 24. Another way students may choose to solve this problem is they may choose to decompose that 6 into 3 plus 3, creating something very similar, 3 times 4 plus 3 times 4. A student may know that fact already by memory and know that that is 12 plus 12, which again gives us 24. We want students to choose the facts that they're comfortable with, that they've already committed to memory to help solving some of these larger problems. Let's take a look at another example. In this example, our factors are a little bit larger. We see an 8 and a 6. So how can we decompose one of our factors to make 2 simpler problems? And remember, students choose what makes sense to them, the problems that they can easily do in their heads or that they've already committed to memory. So one way I like to show students, if they're a little unsure of what they would decompose, is most students know their 5s because they can quickly skip count by 5s. So I see that I have a 6, so I may decompose that 6 into a 5 and a 1. So now my 2 simpler problems are 8 times 5 plus 8 times 1. So 8 times 5 I may know by memory, or I may quickly skip count by 5s, and that will get me to 40. Plus 8 times 1, I know anything times 1 is itself, so that's plus 8. And 40 plus 8, I can easily add that up in my head. That is 48. So I know 8 times 6 is 48. A student may choose to decompose the 8 into maybe 4 plus 4, or they may choose to go 8 times 6. I'm going to take my 5 out of my 8. So now my problems are 3 times 6. Plus 5 times 6. This is where they're bringing in that knowledge of their 5s. So they know, well, I know 5 times 6 is 30. Plus 6 times 3, if they have that memorized, is 18. 30 plus 18 is 48. So, and I want you to note that I'm writing a lot of this on paper, and that's where students certainly start, but they start to do these things in their brains. They start to start doing this mentally, and they won't need the paper once they start using this property and breaking it down into simpler, smaller problems. All right, let's look at our last example for today. Notice in this one, it is now a 1-digit times a 2-digit number. That 2-digit number we can split or decompose into 2 smaller numbers to make this a simpler problem. And as our factors start getting larger, we're going to keep using this strategy to make simpler problems. So I may decide to decompose or split my 12 into 10 plus 2. Because I could do 9 times 10 in my head. I can count by tens, or I could say I know 9 times 10 is 90, plus 9 times 2, which means I could just double my 9 because it's 2 groups of 9 and I know that's 18. And 90 plus 18 gives me 108. So I know 9 times 12 is 108. And again, they could choose to do this any way they choose. If they maybe did 9 times 12, a student might be very comfortable with their 6s, so they might break that up into 6 plus 6 and say, well, I know that 9 times 6 is 54. So I'm going to do that 2 times. 54 plus 54 is 108. It gets us to that same answer, but that student is using strategies that they are comfortable with. Thank you so much for watching our video today, and check back soon for more videos like this.